The airport was alive with movement, rushing footsteps, the hum of distant announcements, and the chatter of travelers navigating their way home. Among them, Captain Sarah Thompson walked steadily through the terminal, her military uniform clean and pressed, but carrying the invisible weight of sacrifice. It had been 14 months since she had last been home, 14 months since she had seen her children's faces in person, kissed their foreheads, or held them in her arms. Her duffel bag hung over one shoulder, the fabric frayed at the edges, a reminder of deployments past. She wasn't looking for attention, didn't seek gratitude. She was just another traveler, longing for the comfort of home. Boarding the flight. At the gate, Sarah handed over her boarding pass, expecting to be directed to the usual cramped economy seating she had grown accustomed to over the years. But as the scanner beeped, the attendant's expression changed. A warm smile spread across her face. "Captain Thompson," the woman said with a respectful nod. "You've been upgraded to first class. Thank you for your service." Sarah blinked in surprise. "Oh, are you sure?" "Absolutely." With a hesitant nod, she stepped onto the jet bridge, making her way to the first-class cabin. The sight of plush leather seats, spacious legroom, and the faint scent of luxury was almost jarring. She felt out of place, like she didn't belong in this section of the plane. Nevertheless, she slid into her assigned seat, exhaling softly. The confrontation begins. The moment of quiet was short-lived. "Excuse me," a sharp voice cut through the air. Sarah turned to see a man standing beside her seat, his gaze shifting between her uniform and the boarding pass in his hand. He was dressed in an expensive suit, a silver watch peeking from beneath his sleeve. The type of man who was accustomed to getting what he wanted. "I think you might be in the wrong seat," he said, his tone laced with condescension. Sarah kept her voice even. "No, sir. This is my seat." The man scoffed. "First class? Really? You sure they didn't make a mistake?" She held her ground. "No mistake." His irritation was visible now. "I just find it hard to believe. I've flown first class for years, and I've never seen a soldier up here." Sarah clenched her jaw, but didn't rise to the bait. Years of military discipline had taught her how to handle difficult situations, and this was just another test of patience. A flight attendant, sensing the tension, approached. "Is there a problem here?" The businessman turned to her, waving a hand at Sarah. "I think there's been an error. Soldiers don't usually fly first class. Someone must have mixed up the seating." The attendant's expression didn't waver. "Captain Thompson's seat is correct, sir. She's been upgraded as a token of appreciation for her service." The businessman's jaw tightened, clearly dissatisfied with the answer. Huffing, he sank into the seat beside Sarah, shaking his head as if the entire situation was some kind of personal offense. In-flight tension. For the first 20 minutes of the flight, an awkward silence settled between them. The businessman busied himself with his laptop, but Sarah could feel his occasional glances, his skepticism hanging in the air. She focused on the window, watching as the world below shrank beneath the clouds. Then, he finally spoke again. "So, what do you actually do in the military?" Sarah turned slightly. "I'm a logistics officer. I coordinate supply chains, make sure troops have the equipment they need." "Ah," he said, as if that explained everything. "So, you don't see combat?" Sarah studied him. "Not directly. But I've been deployed in active zones. Seen my share of close calls." He nodded, tapping a finger on his armrest. "You have kids?" The question caught her off guard. "Yes. 2. His face twitched with something she couldn't quite place. He hesitated before asking, "How long have you been away?" Sarah took a slow breath. 14 months. A long pause. Then, barely above a whisper, he muttered, "That's a long time." She didn't respond. What could she say? It was a long time. Every day, every hour, every missed bedtime story had carved itself into her heart. But it was part of the job, a sacrifice she had accepted. An unexpected shift. A little while later, a flight attendant returned, offering drinks. When she reached Sarah, she handed her a small, folded note along with her beverage. Confused, Sarah unfolded it. The message was simple yet powerful. "I misjudged you. Thank you for everything you do. She glanced at the businessman, who was now staring straight ahead, as if pretending not to notice. But the way his fingers tapped against his knee told her that something had shifted. Sarah smiled softly, folding the note back up and tucking it into her pocket. She wasn't looking for validation, wasn't expecting an apology. But in that moment, she knew she had changed at least one person's perspective. The landing and a new perspective. As the plane descended, Sarah's heart pounded with anticipation. She gathered her things quickly, eager to step off and finally reunite with her family. The businessman spoke once more before she left. Captain Thompson. She turned. He hesitated, then extended a hand. It was an honor sitting next to you. Sarah shook his hand firmly. Likewise. And then she stepped into the terminal, her eyes scanning the crowd until she saw them. Two small figures running full speed toward her. Her children. She dropped to her knees, arms wide open, as they crashed into her embrace. Tears blurred her vision, their laughter the sweetest sound she had ever heard. Her husband stood behind them, eyes shining with relief and love. A few feet away, the businessman watched, his expression unreadable. And then he did something unexpected. He pulled out his phone, opened his contacts, and scrolled down until he found a name. After a deep breath, he hit call. Hey, he said, voice thick with emotion. I just wanted to hear your voice. I know it's been a while. On the other end, his daughter hesitated before responding. Hi, Dad. And just like that, one small moment had changed everything.